nicely turned out in their, is it maroon and gray? Maroon and gray uniforms, and they are from the St. Lucie Preparatory School, which is in St. Catherine in the Linstead area. Is that correct, teachers? Good. And so they are here. There are 13 students here, 1 teacher and 3 accompanying parent. So we are glad to see that the parents are participating in the extracurricular activity of the students. So welcome to Gordon House and to the sitting of the Senate. And I address to the teachers and parents specifically. You kids, as young Jamaicans, you are always welcome here, and it is our pleasure to see you here. So when you get a chance again and you can come back, please don't hesitate, and you can tell the other students at the school what a lovely day that you had. The only thing I would ask the teacher is to ensure that the transport that you are going home in, you make sure they take the time, you hear? Because the road is very hazardous, and I suspect you probably might be going through the gorge. So you make sure and ensure that the driver takes his time. Just before we get to the business of the day, Colleen Tracy, would you just stand, please? Ms. Colleen Tracy has been employed to the Parliament from 2015. She was first employed here on a temporary basis and then was subsequently permanently employed to the cafeteria canteen downstairs. She has served the House of Parliament well, and she is, I think, members on both sides would have appreciated the dedicated service that she has given to the House of Parliament, both the Senate and to the lower house. I suspect that persons who attend downstairs on Tuesday and on Friday would have appreciated your kind and courteous service over these years. And I'm making these observations because she is in fact unfortunately leaving the service of the Parliament. So we wish to record our gratitude to you and wish you all the best in your upcoming endeavors. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Statements by ministers. You know that I think Senator Hill, you are in the position of leader for the time being, but you know that they said that one day Busher is still the Busher. I understand that.
That's in the standing orders. That's in the standing orders, Mr. President.
I understand that Senator Samuda, who is not here, may have a ministerial statement that he wishes to make. So I'm going to ask you to just indicate that we may have to revisit statements by ministers.
Mr. President, you're right. Minister Samuda is not yet here, and he may indeed want to make a statement by minister later on, so I'm going to ask you to accommodate us at that time.
Thank you very much. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the Senate today are the following: report of investigation concerning allegations of conflict of interest, irregularities and/or impropriety in the appointment of Mrs. Olive Downer Walsh to the National Board of Directors of the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, and Ministry Paper number 88 of 2022 entitled Cabinet Agenda Issues dated August 22, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally, questions and answers to questions. Pardon?
Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate appoint a select committee comprising the following members: Honourable Senator Leslie Campbell, Senator Charles Sinclair, Senator Natalie Campbell Rodriguez, and Senator Peter Bunting, as well as Senator Donna Scott Motley, to sit jointly with a similar committee appointed by the House of Representatives to consider and report on a bill entitled An Act to Repeal and Replace the Bail Act and to Provide for Connected Matters. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to make the motion.
Thank you, Senator. And that is under the heading of motions that may be made of commencement. Oh, okay, so okay. Senator Hill, that was under the heading notices of motions given orally. Thank you very much. Questions and answers to questions?
Finish.
Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the Senate. Motions for leave to introduce bills. The presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public business, Minister.
Mr. President, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to make the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Members would have heard the question. Those in favour? Against?
Please let the motion be approved, Mr. President. There'll no debate on it.
Members would have heard the motion presented by Minister. Those in favour? Against? It is intended, Minister, today.
We dealt with today is that public business, Mr. President. Mr. President, today is our intention to continue the State of the Nation debate with contributions from Senators Charles Sinclair and Lambert Brown, and Senator Brown is going to start.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much. Senator Brown, I recognize you.
Mr. President, the rules of these debates allow each speaker 30 minutes. I intend, notwithstanding the podium, to be within those 30 minutes. I want to give thanks to my family who have been a major rock in sustaining my work and my service to the public. In particular, I want to recognize my wife, Linda, who, believe it or not, has stood with me for 43 years. I thank her. I want to thank my children, and in more recent time, my grandchildren, who have kept me as sprightly as I wish to be. I want to thank also, Mr. President, my colleagues in the trade union movement, and in particular those in the UAW, of which I'm the president. This year marks 50 years of service to the trade union movement by myself. I thank them for the support and the cooperation. I also want to thank, Mr. President, the political party to which I belong, headed now by former Senator and Member of Parliament Mark Jefferson Golden. I thank the leader for his confidence, and I thank the members of the party for the support that they have given me and allowing me to serve the nation through such a noble political organization as the People's National Party. Mr. President, somebody passed that script to me for this presentation because I'd asked somebody to just write something for me. And this is what they wrote. I can hear the spirit of a dead baby crying, crying. Why? Why did the people vote out the JLP? Oops, this couldn't be the right script. Because this script ends with the following comment. All she has to do is fire the minister. That script, I'm told, wasn't for me. It really was a script from the leader of the opposition in 2015, Andrew Michael Holness. Time come for him to keep his words. Mr. President, I now turn to the script that I prepared. I rise to once again contribute to the debate on the state of the nation. And how do I sum up the state of our beloved country? I do it this way. It is a state of fear and trepidation amongst the people. In very recent weeks, 2 members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force have been murdered in the corporate area. Their families and friends are traumatized. Just a few weeks ago, in the community of Spring Village near Old Harbour, 4 members of that community were brutally gunned down whilst peacefully gathered to enjoy a football game. 3 women were among the victims. As a nation, we mourn with their families. But truth, Mr. President, time comes for us to do more than mourning. We need to force these evil gunmen on the retreat. Less than 2 weeks ago, the internal audit of the Ministry of National Security was brutally slain by gunmen in Portmore as he transported workmen from a work site. This happened in the early afternoon. Through social media, the nation was taken to the scene of the horrendous murder of a businessman in Green Island, Hanover. This brazen and cold-blooded murder took place again in broad daylight when 2 gunmen walked into the supermarket, killed the proprietor. Mr. President, they calmly packed their bags with stolen goods and nonchalantly walked out into the public space as if nothing had happened. This is frightening. There was a time, Mr. President, when people felt that all you needed to do is stop going out at night and you would have a sense of safety. But that murder in Green Island took place at about 2:30 under the sunshine murders that I've mentioned are but a small subset of the 1,265 murders committed in Jamaica between January 1st this year and last Saturday, October 22nd. And I pause to say, Mr. President, since then we have heard of a 72-year-old man killed in Jones Avenue in Spanish Town. We have heard of a windscreen wiper shot down in the busy Dunrabin intersection. So it's more than 1265 this year. This 1265, Mr. President, is 8.1% increase over the same period last year, which tells us we're going in the wrong direction. That 8.1, Senator Campbell, % increase over last year is 95 more Jamaicans murdered this year for the same time last year. This is worrying. And this, Mr. President, is the major reason for the state of fear and trepidation gripping our nation. This fear is palpable. You can literally feel it among our citizens. Nowhere in Jamaica is safe. Normally quiet parishes have seen dramatic increases in murder. St. Thomas, parish of Paul Bogle and my father's birth. Murder up 52% January to October 22nd. St. Elizabeth, the parish of Danny Buchanan, and former Prime Minister Donald Sangster. Murders up in St. Elizabeth by 63% January to October 22nd. St. Mary, Taki, murders up 76% January to October this year. Trelawney, and then Sugar, Usain Bolt. Murders up in Trelawney by 107% January 1st to October 22nd this year. Manchester, a parish dear to the heart of St. Abuntin. Parish of Norman Manley birth. Murders up in Manchester by a whopping 117% January 1st to the 22nd of October this year. This is worrying. This is the sad and fearful reality facing the Jamaican people, Senator Hill. We could call for export as much as we want, but with these numbers, who is going to invest? With these numbers, who want to turn up to work and to work, whether day or a night shift? Sad reality facing the Jamaican people. One media personality recently tweeted in all caps, I quote, "I'm afraid of Jamaica," end of quote. Let me go over it. I'm afraid of Jamaica, end of quote. She's not alone. Just yesterday, another young Jamaican engaged in the media and business activities tweeted the following, and I quote, "Jamaica, I love you, but this is beginning to feel like a toxic relationship. I don't recognize you anymore. I don't feel safe with you. You're slowly eroding my hope. You were better than this," end of quote. That's true, Mr. President. We're better than this. And we must all strive to see Jamaica a better place than this. But the sad reality is that our people are feeling the fear and trepidation. Another young person summed up that fear and trepidation as follows. And this is from Twitter land yesterday. Quote, tired of saying, rest in peace. Tired of wondering who will be next. Tired of being scared it might be me. End of quote. It could be any one of us. Any one of us relatives. Any of us family. Any of us loved ones. This call, President, for serious reflection by us in the Senate and as a nation. But it's not just media personalities who are speaking out. The Minister of Tourism recently beseeched the nation to seek divine intervention in the fight against crime. He asked us to pray for Dr. Chang, the Minister of National Security, as he, quotes, grapples with the country's high murder rate and an increase in antisocial behavior. End of quote. That's the Minister of Tourism. Man who must sell Jamaica to foreigners. He sent us, pray for Dr. Chang. I urge us, Mr. President, to heed the call of Minister Bartlett. Let us not subject his call to ridicule, as some in our society and even in this chamber did when Senator Bunting made that call, the same call, several years ago. Senator Bunting, history is absolving you. And I think your courage in calling out the weakness in the society and the need, through prayers, for everybody to come together is being shown to now get support, even from those who rejected the stone that you're trying to use to build. Truth is, Mr. President, that in addition to prayers, not just for Minister Chang, but the families of the victims and the society as a whole, we need effective action from the government to prevent and reduce the high murder rate facing the nation. In 2019, the Minister of National Security told the country that intelligence indicated that almost 200 illegal firearms were entering our country every month. If that is true, over the last 36 months, over 7,200 illegal guns would have entered our country. Just think on that. Let it sink in. Every little boy know have a gun, and some are so bold to show it in videos. Reports on the Jamaica Constabulary Force reveals that a recovery of an average of 65 guns happens per month. 200 coming in, you recover 65. Put another way, only 3 of every legal guns entering our country is being recovered. 3 of every 10. 3 of every 10 is being recovered. That is 7 out of every 10 illegal guns remains in the hands of the criminals. So every month, there is a deficit in favor of the criminals. Or put another way, they have a credit of illegal guns. It's no wonder, therefore, that the gun accounts for 85% of the murders committed in Jamaica this year. And I believe Senator Bunting, on an average, it has been around that 85%. Recently, the Parliament passed the new Firearms Act with mandatory sentence of a minimum of 15 years imprisonment for illegal possession of firearms. We passed that last month. What is the status of this act? No. What's the status of this act? Has the Governor General assented to it as yet? As a senator, I don't know. I believe the media couldn't tell us if you asked them, no. Maybe the Governor General has assented, but nobody knows except those who would have been in touch with the document. As the minister, Mr. President, appointed the date, as he set the appointed date for the coming into being of this act, we rushed to pass it. But what of it? File 13? Where is it now? Where is the appointed date for the coming into being of this act? So many people have been killed since. So many have been held with illegal firearm, but they're not going to get 15 years. What's the status of that act? Mr. President, that act speaks to an amnesty. What of the proposed amnesty? What of the regulations associated with this act? When are they going to come to Parliament? When are they going to be implemented? When? Where's the promised public education program to support this legislation? Time come to see serious action. Let us be clear. This bill was tabled over 8 months ago in Parliament. It went through the parliamentary process and passed over a month ago. Minister Chang, in 2021, January, Senator Hill, January 2021, that is 18 months ago, indicated that the new firearm law would have become law by March 2021. We're now October 2022, 18 months after. Where is the action against the criminals? Where is the action against the illegal firearm? Passing the bill is not enough. Time come for real and serious action. Why is this bill not enforced? Mr. President, nobody, let me change that. Nobody in their right mind can blame the opposition for blocking this bill. This failure is totally the failing of this public relations-centric government. There was a time when people would say it's the opposition's fault. The opposition has no responsibility for this. The opposition voted for most of the parts of the bill. It is the government who must act, and the government is failing the people in the fight against illegal firearms. This government is failing to reduce the high murder rates it promised to do when in opposition in 2015. Then we were told that if we voted the JLP, quote, we would be able to sleep with our windows and doors open and wake up and still be alive, end of quote. Sadly, just this year alone, 1,265 won't be able to wake up. We won't come to that. We won't come to that. We're also told in 2015 by the Honorable Andrew Michael Holness that there's a lot can be done There's a lot can be done to reduce murder in Jamaica. Those were the words of the opposition leader, Andrew Onis. Where are the deeds to reduce the amount of murders today, last year, the year before, and any year since 2016? By now, Mr. President, all Jamaica knows that those words are really a big lie. It was a promise aimed at fooling the gullible. The truth is that every year since 2016, the number of murders in Jamaica has been higher every year than any of the 4 years under the PNP when Senator Peter Bunting was the Minister of National Security. Let that sink in. For the record, those 4 years when Portia Simpson Miller was Prime Minister and Peter Bunting was Minister of National Security, those 4 years were the lowest murder rates for the last 15 years. Senator Webby, you have figures, man. These are police figures I'm quoting. I'm sure my friends on the other side will not applaud when I say that of those 15 years, they were in government for 11. 11 of those years. 11 years of higher murder rates than when the PNP, who they disparaged in 2015, was in government. That's the reality. That's the reality. Facts is a evil thing, you know. Especially when you don't create it. Especially when it is created by the independent police sources. Mr. President, nothing I've said here should be taken to say that any one party working alone can solve the crime situation. So don't want you to get up and say, I say, we could solve it. And then retort, oh, you never solve it. It's a tough issue. No one party can by itself solve the crime situation. Mr. President, we need a national consensus on crime fighting. We need a national consensus. And let me say it loud and clear. So, Senator Sinclair, you can take it back to the quarters. Dr. Chang, to the quarters, listen it out on your ear. Dr. Chang has said that the Prime Minister will on November 20th, Sunday, November 20th, be indicating a crime plan to the nation. Mr. President, a partisan political gathering is not the time and place to be announcing a national crime plan. What that does is to say this is a JLP plan. What Jamaica needs now is a national unity against the criminals, and so find another place. Come to Parliament. Go to Vale Royal. Go to Jamaica House. Go to King's House. But make it a national rather than a partisan approach to fighting crime. So I say, time come for a different approach to tackling the scourge of illegal guns and the brazen criminals in whose hands they are located. As I said during the debate on the firearm bill, we need a minimum of 12 months of mourning for the thousands of victims. Let us not forget the pain being suffered by their families and friends. Mr. President, they may not like the mourning 12 months. So let us launch a crusade mobilizing the entire society against illegal guns. This should be at least a 12-month campaign, at least. 12 months of intensive national mobilization against illegal guns. Mr. President, transformation of a society does not come merely by passing legislations or confining citizens to curfews or worse, unconstitutional states of emergency. Transformation comes by relentless effort to change the culture, the values, and the attitude of the majority of the population. Let us bring the political parties around the table. Let us bring Mayor Williams, the parish councils, and councillors around the table. Let us bring in the religious movements, churches, mosques, temples, assemblies, whatever you are. Let us involve the private sector, our trade unions, civic society, academia in such a transformation process. Our schools, students, and community organization must be part of such a transformation process. So too our artists, our musicians, our singers, our DJs, our creative and visual artists, our sportsmen and women, they must be recruited to be part of this crusade against illegal guns. That's how we're going to succeed. The engagement of traditional and social media, as well as the provisions of campaigns and advertising resources, must be mobilized to give a red card to illegal guns. So, President, think about it. If all of us are playing against the gunmen, we're likely to succeed. An army of social workers sent to Floyd Morris, sociologists and psychologists must be engaged in this process of attitude and behavioral change. That's the approach we need, not a ray at a party conference. Mr. President, I know this is not an easy road. It is not a glitter and a glamour. It will not be a bed of roses. It, however, can be done if we summon the will to make the change. We must stir response to duty's call. This is not a new call. It has been made before, but it has never been heeded. Made this time, you heed the call. Time come, Mr. President, to wheel and come again. This situation requires a change of course. Our country has the creative capacity to build out the elements of a crusade, to make the change needed, and to ensure success in reducing the high murder rates, now choking our beloved and beautiful country. Illegal guns sent to ill not only kill people. The presence of illegal guns fuel crime and stifle investment. It inhibits prosperity. It keeps our people poor. It is in our hands, all of us hands, to make the necessary change. Time to do it now. Mr. President, I've long held the view that our Parliament can and should play a pivotal role in crime fighting and crime reduction strategy, developing crime reduction strategies. Time come to establish a special committee on crime reduction. Let that committee be charged with monitoring crime, receiving and developing views from the public, including crime fighting experts here and abroad, and measures needed to assist our hard-working and often stressed and demotivated security forces in their effort to reduce crime. Let this committee be properly resourced to focus like a laser beam in crime reduction. Let it be truly bipartisan in its makeup. And President, you sit on the Electoral Commission, where there is almost equal balance of members. Let that be a model. Make it be an example to Jamaica that both sides of the Parliament takes crime reduction seriously. Let it be such an example to show that together we can act to improve the lives of our people. Crime and the high murder rate is behind the state of fear and trepidation that now constitute the state of our nation. My belief that a different and bipartisan approach is possible and can be successful is born out of my experience of working with a group called ACON. This is a group sent away of leaders of the private sectors, trade unions, civil society, and academia, which for 25 years have been quietly meeting behind the scene and getting things done in Jamaica. So, President, if you told people that you share Clive Dapson, Trevor Monroe, Upton Cable, latterly Cavan Gale, Lambert Brown, were sitting with a Marshall Hall, Tony Bell from Rendezvous, a Douglas O'Rain from Grace, other leaders of the private sector, nobody would believe that such a meeting was possible, even one time. Nobody would believe, Senator Gale, that after 25 minutes, there would be quarrel and shouting and fighting in the room. Yet, this group have continued to exist, meeting regularly, sometimes in the virtual space, sometimes face-to-face, for 25 years, and getting things done without most people knowing anything about its existence. And no, Senator Bunting, it's not a secret society. This is a group of people from diverse backgrounds, politics, religion, social, gender, but who have been able to come together and agree on common issues on which to improve the state of Jamaica, land we love. Some of its members have sat in this chamber. Some continue to sit here, and I dare say on both sides of the aisles. It is possible for us to come together and make the difference that Jamaica wants and demands of us. As we celebrate 25 years of ACON, Mr. President, we had a banquet on Tuesday night at the Terranova Hotel. The guest speaker, Senator Gale, was former Prime Minister Bruce Coley. I told him, Senator Webby, at the end, that Bruce, you gave an excellent speech. I hope the media will capture it and report it to the people. And Senator Golden Campbell, tell your dad, I repeat in the Senate, he gave an excellent speech on Tuesday night. Mr. President, as ACON celebrate that 25 years anniversary on Tuesday night, the group was lauded for the development of the National Partnership Council, the promotion of social dialogue here and abroad. Note was also taken of its contribution towards the establishment and promotion of the Crime Management Oversight Committee. ACON has quietly met with every Prime Minister of Jamaica since 1998, when it was formed. We have also met with every opposition leader since then. And it's interesting, Mr. President, as I come towards the end of my presentation, that all of these officials, Prime Ministers, opposition leaders, expressed disbelief that such a grouping could first exist, and secondly, function in Jamaica, given its diversity and the influence it commands through several organizations. I wish to place on record in this Senate my congratulations to all the members of ACON, past and present, who for 25 years, through cooperation and collaboration, have served this nation. And I will lead that applause to them. Mr. President, yes, I don't want to go into the names, but Ward was the initial coordinator, Milton Samuda is the president, and Ward was awarded on Tuesday. And you know also that a certain company was among those who were awarded for their contribution to ACON. May I say Grace Kennedy? Mr. President, on Tuesday night, the ACON family was happy to receive a letter from the Office of the Governor General, which says in 2 paragraphs, references made to your letter dated 26 September 2022.
Sorry, Senator Brown. Remember, I gave you permission to do
Yeah, I know. I'm not going into the
No, because if you wish, you could do it now, you know. Or you prefer to do it later?
I prefer to do it when...
Okay, no problem.
Because I want it to be jointly done.
Okay. So the question is that they extended to complete. Those in favor? Against? Thank you, Senator Brown.
Mr. President, from the Office of the Governor General, the following came to ACON in time for the banquet. In fact, maybe only one member of ACON was aware of the letter. It says as follows. Dear Mr. Samuda, who is the President Coordinator, references made to your letter dated 26 September 2022 to His Excellency the Governor General, in which you requested a proclamation to declare the 25th day of October annually as National Partnership Day. Enclosed here is a proclamation dated and signed by His Excellency, who extends his best wishes that your event will be a success. And as you have indicated, President, on the motion for adjournment, in the spirit of partnership, I have asked to read a part of the proclamation, and my colleague, Senator Gill, will read the other part, so that it shows the unity that is possible even within this chamber, a unity which we demand and desire outside of the chamber. Time come for the positive lessons of a group like ACON to be applied to crime reduction. Time come for a national rather than a partisan approach to crime fighting. Time come for a similar approach of national consensus on crime as we did for the Electoral Commission. Time come for unity against crime as our trade unions came together in the Joint Trade Union Research and Development Center and the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. Time come for us to come together and fight in crime as we came together on epoch to address the challenges of our economy. The removal of the state of fear and trepidation gripping our nation is an imperative demanding all hands on deck. The safety of our people, the possibility of real prosperity, and bequeathing a better Jamaica for our children and grandchildren demand our coming together to slay this crime monster. Mr. President, to that I pledge the love and loyalty of my heart, the wisdom and courage of my mind, the strength and vigor of my body in the service of our fellow citizens. It is within each of us to fulfill such a pledge. Let us do it. May it please you, Mr. President.
Senators Gale and Webby, do not poke the bear.
Yes.
Thank you, Senator Lambert Brown. Senator Charles Sinclair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I'm always like that, Senator Bunting. Mr. President, it is my pleasure to make my contribution to the State of the Nation debate. And before proceeding, I just wish to express thanks to several persons, including my wife, Glenette. She ensures that I get here early every Friday morning, for sure, in the service of the nation. And, you know, blame her, not me. And my children, and in particular my young 8-year-old son, because what I do in public service, I have to think of him at all times because I have to still make his decisions. Mr. President, I wish to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle with whom I share this space every Friday, and where we have constructive exchange of views on various national issues, even when we do not see eye to eye. We are the epitome of the phrase, let us agree to disagree. Mr. President, as I thank my colleagues, I must single out yourself and the leader of government business, the Honorable Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith, for the support and guidance given to me as a senator and as Deputy President of this chamber. Mr. President, under your capable hands and guidance, a comprehensive review of the standing orders is ongoing. It was through that process that this Senate implemented meetings and attendance and participation virtually. And today we have Senator Shireen Golding benefiting from that amendment to the standing order. The experience in that committee has been most edifying, and I'm of the firm belief that on completion, all should be satisfied with the improvements made. Mr. President, I express my gratitude to all members of staff of Parliament who continue to give awesome service to the nation. And I also wish to express my thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister Andrew Holness for his steady, visionary, transformational leadership of this country over the past 6 years. Mr. President, he and his team have been bold to undertake many of the projects others were not bold enough to take on. There has been infrastructural projects, the South Coast Highway, something that has been spoken about for many years. It is presently ongoing. The Montego Bay Perimeter Road needs the Civil Service Compensation Review, and which by all indications is nearing a successful completion, Mr. President. Mr. President, in respect to national security, there has been a major overhaul and upgrade of law enforcement architecture to give the law-abiding a fighting chance against the mayhem caused by organized criminal activity, to name a few. And as Senator Brown spoke earlier and inquired, Mr. President, in relation to the firearms bill, as all senators are aware, any bill that is passed goes through a process of review to ensure its accuracy. The Attorney General Chambers will review it. It is ultimately printed. It is assented to by the Governor General. It is ultimately gazetted. Mr. President, my information is that the firearms bill should be gazetted by latest Monday of next week. Mr. President, the Honorable Prime Minister made comments at a recent public engagement which found favor with me when he said and I quote, "I have passed the stage of trying to or seeking to win political popularity and favor. I have to think about legacy. What will Jamaica be? Will it be the same as I came and saw it? I can't let Jamaica be the same as I saw it." Mr. President, those words are as profound as those uttered by a President of the United States of America who said, and I quote, "It is not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Equally, Mr. President, the Honorable Prime Minister twins perfectly with the message from the motto of Jamaica 60, reigniting a nation for greatness. Mr. President, every Jamaican, whether here or in the diaspora, must put Jamaica and its welfare over and above self. If Jamaica prospers, every Jamaican will benefit. And if it fails, we all fail. As politicians, as legislators, as civil servants, community leaders, as Jamaicans, Mr. President, let us look into ourselves, our various agencies and spheres of influence, and ask ourselves objectively so, are we doing our utmost to make it right for Jamaica? What we do and say now will leave a legacy of which we can be proud. Will our words and deeds reignite our nation to achieve greatness and to be truly tolerant in all respects? So, President, I am not one to just speak of problems. And I would recommend that we as senators, we don't just look into the problems and regurgitate them. Let us look and find the solutions to all the problems that exist. Mr. President, the COVID pandemic has put in motion a global reset. And what we do now and over the next several years will determine our future prospects. Mr. President, this debate is taking place at a most critical juncture. We are midway the term as an administration led by the Honorable Prime Minister and his team. And we are just emerging from the pandemic and also now facing the effects of the Ukraine-Russia conflict. The economic and social effects of these external matters have created an effect worldwide and also here in Jamaica. And it has been spoken about by many. I will not belabor those particular aspects of it. But, Mr. President, and particularly in respect to the COVID and the economic shocks that can come from the Ukraine-Russian conflict, we as Jamaicans must continue to be vigilant in all that we do. It is without doubt that our economy and social well-being took a heavy blow. On the economic front, we exhibited resilience and we have survived. There were no layoffs in the civil service. Vulnerable groups and others have and continue to receive targeted treatment and support from government through the We Care program. Packages and grants to the tune of billions of dollars were ably distributed to assist ordinary Jamaicans through the difficult 2 years of COVID. Mr. President, this is a government which shows that it cares through action. Mr. President, the program was executed without the whimper of unfairness or scandal. That in itself is a monumental achievement and contrasts to the debacle of a zinc scandal in the 1990s and our previous administration. Mr. President, transparency and accountability have been the key of this administration. Mr. President, with needs now being implemented, one can look forward to a more effective and efficient distribution of goods and services to the vulnerable and needy Jamaicans in times of crisis. This administration, Mr. President, is doing its utmost in minimizing the effects on the Jamaican populace. practical and prudent decisions are being made and implemented meticulously. The ship of state is being guided by responsible hands and the grace of God. And for a sustainable and better future, one should not yield to the temptation of populist and reckless commentary. Mr. President, the Honourable Minister of Finance, Nigel Clark, only this week assured the nation that Jamaica can withstand any future external shocks. Mr. President, we must never forget where the run-with-it decisions of the past took the nation. Never must we return from whence we came. That time has come, that time has gone. Mr. President, the result of good management of the economy is reflected in a headline which reads, "Business confidence up dramatically." Mr. President, the latest business and consumer confidence survey reveals that business confidence increased by double-digit levels, as well as consumer confidence for the third quarter of 2022. Business leaders from the financial sector, the entertainment sector, hardware and tourism, they have endorsed the results captured in the recent confidence survey. That is a significant achievement of an administration working for the best interests of the people. The result of good management of the economy is reflected in Standard & Poor's rating of Jamaica at B+, reflecting that the current strategy of reducing vulnerability and strengthening resilience is paying off. Mr. President, Senator Gabrielle Morris, she had opened this debate and made comments in respect to youth unemployment and pointed out that youth unemployment was at 15.5%. And I will agree with her, one would want to see it at a level which is much better than that. Our youth must find employment. But you know what the senator omitted to say is that at that level, it is at its lowest historically and way better than what existed in 2013 when it was at 37%.
No.
Under previous administration.
What?
So, Gabriel, Senator Morris, appreciate that work is being done. The unemployment, generally, Mr. President, is at its lowest, 6%. Administration at work. Mr. President, in preparing for this debate, I reviewed my presentation done in last year's State of the Nation, which was entitled "The West Recovering Stronger and Better for a Sustainable Future." In that presentation, I mentioned several major projects which were slated to commence in Western Jamaica. 1 year on, it is only prudent that I provide to this chamber an update on those. And the update I submit, Mr. President, is a useful and practical guide on the state of our nation. In housing, Edward Ridge housing development has been done, completed. Persons are presently occupying the development there. Grange Pen and Estuary, for the provision of housing solutions, are continuing apace. Certain phases have been completed, but hundreds of persons have been able to acquire accommodation. Mr. President, contrary to comments again made by Senator Gabrielle Morris, this administration, by reducing stamp duty to a flat rate of $5,000 from what previously existed, where stamp duty in acquisition of property was at 1% of the purchase price, which would result in the cost to persons who are interested in acquiring property being increased. It is now set at a mere $5,000. Transfer tax, Mr. President, has been reduced by this administration to 2% from 5%. And what I want to also point out is that every time the Jamaica Labour Party is in administration of this country, stamp duty and transfer tax has been reduced. Shall reduce it from 7% to 5%. To 4% transfer tax. The PNP administration increased the transfer tax to 5%. So we are heading in the right direction, and we are making opportunities available by the reduction of the cost incurred in respect to acquisition of accommodation. The interest rates provided through the NHT and other loan opportunities have been improved. So there is the improved ability of the ordinary Jamaican to own or to expand their homes. In addition, the construction of housing solutions through the NHT and the HAJ and other private developers continue to make housing opportunities available at a greater rate than any previous administration in this country. Mr. President, the Honourable Prime Minister has committed 70,000 housing solutions in 5 years. And in this year alone, 10,000 housing solutions are expected to be delivered. Yes. Mr. President, in the hotel construction, Rio in Trelawney, Sandals in St. Anne, Hard Rock in St. James, Secrets in St. James, Princess Hotel in Hanover, all of them have started. All of those projects have started and are ongoing. Additional projects, Mr. President, have started to include a US $100 million investment in a multi-purpose vacation and residential resort by C&H Property Development Company Limited and Money Masters Real Estate Limited. That, Mr. President, and that is in Montego Bay, a sign of investor confidence in this administration. The Mobe Perimeter Road ground has been broken, and tractors will be on the ground in short order. The Sangster International Airport, work is going on. When you pass along the Elegant Corridor, you see significant work going on, continuing apace. The Jimmy Cliff Boulevard improvement, of which I spoke, Mr. President, I was invited, along with others, to a stakeholder meeting. The architectural works have been done, so you can see what it is that Jimmy Cliff Boulevard will look like in short order. The North Coast Highway expansion, I made mention of that, where we'd have the dualization going from Montego Bay straight through to Ocho Rios. Mr. President, Minister Nigel Clark has signed the Financial Advisory Services Agreement with the International Finance Corporation, the private sector arm of the World Bank, to advise on the design and execution of the development of this project. Yes. So, Mr. President, work is going on. Mr. President, work is going on that will bring about transformation and development to this country. Mr. President, as the saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And on this particular journey, that is the North Coast Highway Expansion Project, the journey has gone several steps with the signing by the Minister of that agreement. Tourism is back up and running. And from all reports, summer 22, we're just coming out of summer 22, has been classified as being the best in the history of Jamaica's tourism. Mr. President, Jamaica is the leading tourist destination in this region, and the outlook going into the future is positive. Visitor arrivals have improved and have surpassed the pre-COVID position in 2019. The earnings from tourism in 2022 is up 20% over the 2019 figures, Mr. President. We have seen where existing airlines are adding new routes into Jamaica from cities across the United States of America. And the new airlines, and Senator Hill is sitting here, and I know he made travels over into the Middle East countries with Minister Bartlett. And coming out of that, Mr. President, Emirates have begun selling seats to Jamaica out of the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Mr. President, where arrivals and earnings increase, the pool of funds to the Tourism Enhancement Fund will undoubtedly increase. With improvements in the fund's capacity, we can expect investment and improvements in the infrastructure of the tourist resort centers, which will in turn encourage increased visitor incursion into the public space, thereby enhancing the earning capacity of locals. So, President, it has been advocated by many, and I have been one of those advocates, that locals must benefit from this industry. Whether in the construction of hotels, job opportunities in the operations in the hotels as direct workers or entertainers, or providing transportation for visitors or goods and services, Jamaicans must be first in line. Mr. President, the government must ensure policies and incentives exist in the industry which makes for a better working experience. Equally, those who work in the industry or who hope to work in the industry must play their part. They must take advantage of the training opportunities which exist and improve on their professionalism and expertise in their sphere of work. Mr. President, I wish to commend the Honourable Minister of Tourism, Edmund Bartlett, for providing incentives to workers in the industry through training, housing opportunities, and pension arrangements through the Tourism Pension Plan. I'm most pleased to see the Minister now advocating for wage adjustments for those in the industry and hotel workers in particular. The Minister and Jamaica Centre of Tourism Innovation, they have gone even further, and they must be commended, Mr. President, on the recent launch of the database which allows for better contact between certified tourism workers and the potential employers in the sector. The Ministry of Labour, I am submitting, must partner in this. It must not just be those in the tourism industry. All work permit applications must be carefully screened, and none should be issued for expatriates unless that database search has been exhausted. Trained and experienced Jamaicans must be the first choice at all times. So, President, the buildings, the hotels, the sun, the sea, and the sun cannot make for the ultimate visitor experience. The workers in the industry are a critical component for that to be achieved. Accordingly, they must be paid their true worth. Worker satisfaction can only be beneficial for the expansion, sustainability, and continued success of the industry.
Sound like me.
Sounding like you?
Yes.
You know, and Senator Bro, but I didn't hear him speak about it, the workers, today. Mr. President, I therefore encourage the Minister to continue treading the path he has embarked on regarding wages, as also for improved worker conditions for workers and a restraint on the use of contracts for workers. And I would think that with the guidance that came out of the recent decision of the NHD against marksman, should make the dialogue a little easier. Yes. Mr. President, those are big ticket items to which I just referred. which are critical to the development of a nation. There are other aspects that I will touch on which are critical to the future growth of the nation and the welfare of its people. Mr. President, the country must be cleaned up. Must be cleaned up. The popular saying is cleanliness is next to godliness. In the context of this presentation, we need to keep our thoughts, hearts, and minds clean as well as our space. So I want to deal with the issue of solid waste. So, President, we have heard the comments and we have seen the situation and we understand where it would have arisen. With COVID and the need to ensure that certain care was taken of the citizens, there had to be adjustments in relation to the expenditure. But where are we now? There has been the announcement by the Honourable Minister Desmond McKenzie that 50 of the 100 new garbage trucks are on their way to Jamaica. It's better late than never. And what is good is that I expect them to be here in local government month, Senator Williams. The minister has confirmed the first 50 will be operational in November, and we await the further announcement on the arrival of the others. Currently, NSWME is recruiting and training operators for these units. But, Mr. President, trucks by themselves will never solve the problem unless every resident in every community is a part of the solution. We must socialize our citizens on proper garbage disposal methods. Equally, the state and the people must ensure that going forward, we are looking on having planned communities for ease of access to support effective and efficient public service delivery to include garbage collection. Clean up the hearts and minds of persons. Mr. President, our musical content can influence the impressionable mind. I congratulate the Broadcasting Commission on its recent directive restricting airplay of music which glorifies violence, gunmanship, and the use of drugs on radio and television. This is not the first time the Commission has taken the stance, and I encourage them this time to be vigilant in effective monitoring and enforcement of the directive. They must continue the dialogue with all stakeholders, licensees, producers, artists, purveyors of musical content in the promotion of the objective of the directives. Mr. President, I take note of the pushback from a few persons in the music industry. And I want to say and make it clear that the position on clean content is not and cannot be a political matter. It is not one of the GLP versus PNP or government versus opposition. All well-minded persons should be at one. We cannot continue in the way that we have been going. To make it abundantly clear, Mr. President, to make it abundantly clear, I point that in 2014, the now leader of the opposition, Mark Golding, as Minister of Justice, Senator Peter Bunting as Minister of National Security, Senator Damian Crawford as Minister of State in the Ministry with responsibility for entertainment. And I am certain that Senator Fraser Binns would have been a part of the Senate at that time. Senator Brown, you would have also been here. But they contributed to the amendment of the Offences Against the Persons Act to include a Section 18A. That provision, Mr. President, criminalize. Now we've gone beyond merely saying that you mustn't play. as the Broadcast Commission has come out recently and said, don't play. But that provision contained in the Offence Against the Persons Act in 2014 criminalized any performance in public, production, recording of audio, visual or audiovisual communication which promoted killing or serious acts of violence against any person. The offense, Mr. President, was punishable by a fine of $1 million or 6 months imprisonment. If you listen to what I said, Senator Bunting, I said it is not PNP versus JLP. I am making it known that you participated in the process. Senators participated in the process. And the legislation exists there. So in speaking, I have pointed out that the pushback that we're getting, persons must view it in a political way. It must be viewed in a political way, because it's not about politics. We're talking about clean content. Mr. President, those in the creative arts must be creative. Those in the creative arts must be creative in a real way. Their narrative claiming right to freedom of expression, their narrative claiming right to freedom of expression should be moderated to read right to responsible freedom of expression. Freedom and rights are never absolute, but are constrained by boundaries of accuracy, fairness, rights of others, and responsibility. Mr. President, performances in music which states, and I will quote a line from a current song being played. Well, I suppose that's what they call it. But this is what they consider to be creative. And I quote, "Kill the witness before him go court." That is a line in a popular song by a popular, and I would think that the person is indeed talented. Come again? But they are placed in the song, "Kill the witness before him go court." You know, Senator Bunting, it's something that one would have to look at, because you are saying commit an act of violence against a person, and a specific type of person, a group of persons. So, Mr. President, I am saying that that is not creative. In fact, in the context of the Evidence Amendment Act, which provides that the written statement of a dead witness is admissible in a trial, makes such an utterance foolish. Mr. President, and criminal. I've dealt with the criminal. But yes, criminal and foolish. So, Mr. President, it must be noted, the directive of the Commission and Section 18A are neutral, with no specific reference to any genre of music. It cannot therefore be argued that government, in its generic sense, or the Broadcasting Commission, is targeting dancehall music. So I don't want persons to go out there and say, dancehall you're fighting against. The section and the directive of the Broadcasting Commission didn't refer to dancehall music. This administration has made it abundantly clear on National Heroes Day its recognition of dancehall music when the artist Jeffrey Campbell, better known as Agent Sasco, was vested with a national award for his positive influence on youth through music.
Mr. President, the Senator's time for speaking having expired, I'm proposing that his time be extended to allow him to complete his presentation.
Members should have heard the question. Those in favor? Against? Thank you, Senator Sinclair.
Mr. President, in addition to the big ticket items that we always speak about, I want to go to the issue of general public order. Public order. Spoke about let us clean up the place, public order. So, President, I note the specific operations by the Jamaica Constabulary Force in various urban centers. Operation Restore Paradise in Montego Bay, and the Operation Leviticus in Ocherias. And there was another launch of an operation, unnamed operation in Savanamar, in Westmoreland. Mr. President, those activities have been welcomed by the residents in these urban centers. Progress and prosperity cannot flourish in chaos, and indeed, things have gotten a bit chaotic. Mr. President, the Right Excellence Sir Alexander Bustamante said, and I quote, "Without discipline, we cannot succeed, and with disorder, we will fail." The comment was true then when he made that comment in 1938. It is true today. Mr. President, how did we get to this? And I, in my own analysis, have looked on and come up with 3 reasons. Over the decades, Mr. President, legislation, particularly those which address public order issues, have not been adequately reviewed, enhanced, and enforced. So when you look at the Town and Communities Act, for example, you're looking at something that is headed, must be 18 something. And that is what we're still using today in a changed society. Legislation for decades across administrations, they have not adequately reviewed, enhanced, and enforced them. It is as if these laws don't exist and the nation was placed on a course of anything or anything. Jamaicans lost all respect. I shouldn't say some Jamaicans. Let me change that. Lost all respect for law and order. Disorderly conduct, obstructing police in the lawful execution of their duties, remain petty session offences with minimal sanctions. With minimal sanctions, the police tasked with ensuring public order was maintained, may not have seen it worth their while and effort to enforce the provisions. You go to court, and what is the penalty? A $4 fine. You know, some minimal fines, $1,000 fines. It costs more for the police to come off the duty, to transport the person to the police station, to write up the paper, and for the person to go to court and the police to take time off to go to the court in order to present that case. Our public order legislation, for whatever reason, have been left behind, and we need to review them, enhance them, and enforce them. Mr. President, we look on the videos that we see circulating on social media. Many Jamaicans find humor in disrespecting the police, in effect, disrespecting the state. Since 1992, as I understand it, civics as a subject on the curriculum in school was terminated, thrown out the window. Civics is a subject, Mr. President, that taught me, amongst many other things, my duty and my responsibility as a citizen. So when I hear Senator Brown today speaking about respect for life of others, the murders, that is what one of the duties and responsibility of a citizen. Respect everybody's life. And that is taught to us, amongst other things, in civics. Today, that subject is lost in a one-line or paragraph in social studies. My research, Mr. President, reveals that the Minister of Education, since 2012, So we had Ronnie Thwaites, Member of Parliament, Minister of Education, 2012. 2016, Minister Roel Reid. And we today have Minister Favour Williams. Every minister since 2012 has promised a restoration of civics and the school's curriculum. Today, it is not there. And I am calling on Minister Favour Williams during her sojourn. Let it happen, Minister. Let it happen. Mr. President, it is full time we get beyond the promise. We must get beyond the promise. Let us get it done. And the third, we have failed, Mr. President, to highlight sufficiently the third preamble of the Charter of Rights. The third preamble of our Charter of Rights in the Jamaican Constitution. That preamble reads, and I quote, Mr. President, all persons are under a responsibility to respect and uphold the rights of others recognized in this chapter. That is the third preamble of the Charter of Rights. The other two is that every individual must protect their rights, and the state must protect the rights of the citizen. So everyone claims to have rights, but they forget, it seems, that the flip side of every right is a responsibility to the state and to his fellow man. Mr. President, it is simple. It's a very simple suggestion I'm going to make. Very simple. But I will say this. In the anticipated review of the Jamaica Constitution, I recommend that the provisions in our Constitution, which is headed Charter of Rights, it is headed Charter of Rights, we must amend it to read Charter of Rights and Responsibilities. Let us put the emphasis on both, because it is the flip side, one to the other. Mr. President, whilst someone, and I give you some examples, someone may need housing and accommodation, that person must know that he has a duty not to encroach, obstruct, nor interfere with the other person's right to his property. You take it out into another area. Every Jamaican has a right to a clean and safe environment. But everyone has a duty and a responsibility to respect each other's right to also have a clean and safe environment. So they should not, Mr. President, mess up the place, as it were. Mr. President, this country needs a massive education and re-socialization exercise on being a model citizen. Revamp, listen to this now, Senator Morris, because you think I'm not going to be, what you called it earlier? Objective. Yeah. Mr. President, we must revamp and restart the values and attitudes program, or create another. You're not going to knock the bench for that one. whichever tickles our fancy, whichever tickles our fancy. But let us get it done. All possible. You know, Senator Morris, PJ, if you're going to go down that road, because I can easily respond to you to say PJ fell down on the job. All right? So all possible civil and government institutions, and I think you said it, Senator Brown. All possible civil and government institutions, church, school, youth club, political parties, and you can name them. And every well-thinking Jamaican must get on board. Mr. President, the partnership between the PSOJ and the Jamaica Constabulary Force in the program Project Star is commendable and must be supported. And in my view, we need a program which is even more expansive than that. than what it is, because I think that particular program is limited to 10 or 20 communities. But that is what they can do. Senator Webby, let us join up and get everybody on board and spread the word. We need to ensure that our citizens are model citizens. Mr. President, the public order legislations which have been put on the back burner for decades, as I said, must be reviewed and improved post-haste. These include the Constabulary Force Act, Town and Communities Act, Public Health Act, Country Fires Act, NSWMA Act, Parochial Roads Act, Town and Country Planning Act, to name a few. However, whilst that review and modernization takes place, we must emphasize enforcement with what we presently have. Many of these falls under the auspices of the municipal corporations to enforce. And Mr. President, once these laws are enhanced and local ordinances can be achieved, I look forward to the day when municipal courts are established across every parish for the enforcement of municipal laws with well-trained justices of the peace or lay magistrates sitting penalties and fines recovered through those courts, the municipal courts, must be retained in the coffers of the municipality. And I come to my last topic, which is somewhat connected, Mr. President, is the need for reform in local government. Mr. President, the Local Governance Act of 2016 is due for revision based on what is contained in legislation 5 years, and it should be subject to review. I've not heard any comment on that, but there needs to be review. And why I look on this particular act is because it facilitates the strengthening of local government in the parish. Everything cannot be run from central government. Cannot be run from, you cannot have effective governance if everything is done from central government. And so local government needs to, the act needs to be reviewed. Mr. President, the Constitution in its review also must fully entrench. There's a little half-baked type of entrenchment of place in local government in the Jamaica Constitution. It must be fully entrenched in the Jamaica Constitution with fixed election date. We must come here to any parliament and be asking for extension, etc. Set it. Let us set it in the Constitution with fixed election dates, which cannot be disturbed by a majority in Parliament. In fact, Mr. President, I'm going to go further, and I've said it already. Let us have local and central elections in one process. We have rationalized, hear me? Mr. President, we have rationalized several areas of government. So why can't we rationalize the process of election? Why? It costs $1.5 billion to put on, whether it is local or whether it is general. You make one spend, or you bump it up by to 2 billion, and you have one election. Instead of spending 3 billion in possibly 1 year, you possibly can have that taking place. Let us rationalize the process. Jamaican people, the Jamaican electorate can manage it. I put that on the table. Mr. President, several mundane matters have to be rooted under the Local Governance Act to the Minister for approval. Example, the mere sale or lease of a land that is owned by a municipal corporation or held in trust for the citizens of a municipal corporation. You have to get the permit of the Minister. Why do we have to do that when you have procurement guidelines? You have oversight bodies such as the Auditor General and the Integrity Commission. So why it is that you have to move it to a minister? We have one particular situation existing in St. James, and it has been sent to the ministry for years. and you get a response that sometimes you don't even understand it because it goes to a particular committee that has to guide the minister. But we have procurement guidelines. Follow them. We have the Integrity Commission. Don't get yourself in breach of any of the rules that deal with that situation. But when a community asks for their community land, and I give an example, you have community lands that are not used. Not used. A community may have several community lands, and the community and the council is just holding it on trust for the community, the residents of a particular community. And the community says, look here, the land is overgrown, bushy, whatever the situation is. Can we dispose of this one and take the capital and build a community center? Because we do not have a community center. What is so difficult about that? So the community now, unable to assist itself, the community unable to assist itself, turns to the political directorate and say, find the monies to build a community center when they have an asset that can be converted and transferred the value into the building of the community center. Simple things. He agrees with it. He agrees with it. He agrees with it, Senator Bunty. No, that's what I'm saying. It takes a review. It takes a review. All right? So, and you know the process. We want a new parliament. We need a new parliament building with space, and we need a new parliament with human resources so we can undertake many of these reviews. That's what we need. And that is why this administration is pushing for the construction of a new parliament building with the necessary facilities. Yeah, man, decision taken, we're getting it there. Mr. President, the relationship between municipal corporations and other agencies of central government needs to be revisited and reset. For example, is the public health under the direction of the Ministry of Health, or are they under the local board of health? Senator Williams. You understand the challenges. Whose direction do they follow? In the area of road maintenance, it is my view that municipal corporations should be strengthened to become the road authority to maintain roads throughout the parish. The National Works Agency be established as a regional body with responsibility for major structural works. Mr. President, you see, Senator Morris, when I listen to you now, you know what it is that I'm getting from you? Is that local government is really nothing. It needs to be, I'm saying, let us look at it, let us improve it, and let us get things done for the parishes that they represent. So, President, the residents in communities should be encouraged to use the provisions of the strategic laws to establish special improvement districts and business improvement districts. Community members have to be given an avenue to take charge of their communities. And as I close, Mr. President, I repeat that this administration has done great things for this country under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, and his team. It is because of these works that our economy continues on a path of growth and the unemployment rate continues to decline. We may not be where we want to be, but we have done better than most, and the trajectory is on the right path. There is much more to be done on the national and local fronts as we strive to attain the goal of Vision 2030. The question, as I started out, to be asked and answered by all of us here and beyond the walls of this chamber, collectively and individually, is what will be our legacy? Will we leave Jamaica the same way we found it? Mr. President, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. Thank you very much, Senator Sinclair. Minister?
Mr. President, I mentioned earlier that Minister Samuda might have a statement, but he was unduly held up at Coated this morning and couldn't get here in time. So I'm apologizing on his behalf. His colleague is no longer here, so he's not led to make that statement today. He'll make it next week.
Okay, I understand that. His colleague meaning Senator Fraser Binns?
Yes. Mr. President, now I ask that the State of the Nation debate be suspended.
Thank you very much. The question is that the State of the Nation debate, which continued today with two excellent and lively contributions by Senator Brown and Senator Sinclair, be suspended for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Against? Minister?
Mr. President, it is not contemplated for us to do any further business today. I therefore ask that the Senate be adjourned to a date to be fixed.
I think we have two.
Yeah.
So we have two interventions. One by Senator Sapphire Longmore, and who is responding? Senator Allen to respond, and then Senator Brown and Gale. Senator Sapphire Longmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on the motion for adjournment to bring attention to the ending of the awareness campaign around breast cancer. And of course, we all know that this is kind of a rebirth anniversary for me personally. And once again, I always extend my gratitude to especially the colleagues who were on that journey with me throughout those days in the Senate. I also want to extend sincere thanks because I did recognize on October 14th, when I was preoccupied with my State of the Nation presentation at the time, that practically all members of the Senate were in pink that day in recognition for breast cancer awareness, because that would have been the first time we sat in October. But I also chose, and I have chosen over the past 2-3 years, to recognize breast cancer awareness at the end of the month. Because what I realize is that there is significant attention and a great flurry at the beginning of October. And then as it goes through the month, it tapers down. And the fact of the matter is that breast cancer, and I take away the story when I speak of the C, I don't say the big C because I don't empower it. It doesn't deserve that. I think it is something that we recognize we are much bigger than, and we no longer have to be fearful of it. And that is one of the significant reasons why continuing the advocacy is important, not just in October, but throughout the entire year that we seek to maintain our health. Mr. President, I just want to remind us that, it is the leading cause of death from cancer amongst women here in Jamaica, with an incidence rate of 43.1 per 100,000, and the mortality rate being 18.3 per 100,000. Approximately 300 women die from breast cancer each year in Jamaica. And the critical thing that we must recognize is that early detection, early identification makes a significant difference. It makes a significant difference in the cost to treat, which is very expensive. It makes a significant difference in your recovery and in your chances of recurrence of the illness. So when we say go out and screen, when we say go out and do your checks, it is not just about picking up on the cancer or picking up on the malady, but also to ensure that your survival and the cost to treatment is as minimal as possible. I remind persons that self-examination, and this goes for men, because men do get breast cancer, especially if you have a family history. The genetic predisposition is what is important, and the highest risk factor. If you have what we call a first-degree family member, your siblings, your mother, etc., who are directly by blood related to you, if they have a history, male or female, you should be more aware and seek to screen yourselves especially. Mr. President, I also implore us that as we seek to bring awareness to our advocacy, that you do it on the holistic approach. You take care of yourself physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually. And you ensure that you have all the factors in place to deal with the onset of unforeseen circumstances such as this. But practically, insurance. Seek to secure good health insurance. It makes a big difference in terms of surviving this condition. And lastly, Mr. President, I will say to us that in terms of advocacy, I would really love to see increased attention being paid to the support for persons as they are going through the process, not just in picking up on the situation, but as they're going through the treatments. And a part of it that a lot of people don't process and recognize is after you have gone through, and I identify myself as a thriver. That's how I identify myself, not just a survivor, but a thriver. After you go through and you are in remission, there is significant concern for recurrence. And that is an aspect of it that very few people process and recognize, that support is needed there too. Because at that time, the slightest ache, the slightest pain, people go into a panic if this thing is coming back and if they have to put on the armor again. So in that respect, I want us to raise awareness about this and continue our efforts throughout the year. If it pleases you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Longmore. Senator Allen.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I wish to join with my colleague and also start where you ended in terms of the importance of support to those who are going through or have gone through the dreaded cancer. I stand here today like many Jamaicans who know of someone in their family or some close friend who has had to deal with cancer. My two closest friends from high school are survivors, one 12 years and one 3 years. My cousin, a survivor, and another dear friend of mine, Tara, so many of them. So all of us can relate. And as you speak of the importance of early detection, we must pay close attention and recognize the cost to even early detection. It's not easy, it's not cheap. So when we say go out and be screened and get your mammograms, it's not a cheap endeavor, but it's an important one. So we start from the importance and the need for us to get used to and do self-examination. Thank you. Self-examination. I must applaud the work that is being done by the Jamaica Cancer Society and what they continue to do with the support of corporate Jamaica and private citizens who make contributions to the work that they do. So I want to use this opportunity to encourage us and those who are in a position to provide support to the Jamaica Cancer Society that we do that, because there are so many women, particularly single-parent households that are headed by so many women, who are in need of this type of support that can only be provided by organizations like the Jamaica Cancer Society. And it is my hope that one day soon we will see the work that they do in Kingston be extended to the rest of Jamaica, and in particular Western Jamaica, that it can serve even more. So it's going to be up to us as citizens of this country to support the work of the Jamaica Cancer Society. So today I stand in support not only with you, Senator Longmore, but all the other survivors, all those who are going through it at this moment, and that we encourage and continue to provide the help that they need, but also remind us all, men included, to do our self-examination, because early detection is where we have our best chances. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, both Senator Allen and Senator Sapphire Longmore. Much appreciated that intervention, and I'm certain you have given food for thought, both of you. Senator Brown.
Thank you, President. President, the Governor General was petitioned to declare the 25th of October annually as National Partners Day. In response to that, a proclamation by His Excellency the Most Honorable Sir Patrick Linton Allen, Member of the Order of the Nation, Knight Grand Cross of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael and St. George, Commander of the Order of Distinction, Knight of Grace of the Most Venerable Order of the Hospital of St. John of Jerusalem, Governor General of Jamaica. He made the following proclamation, which will be read in part by myself and in the spirit of partnership by Senator Gill. The proclamation from the Governor General reads as follows. Whereas the history of Jamaica is replete with examples evidencing the value of social dialogue and social partnership to national well-being, and whereas ACON is an informal, multi-stakeholder, solution-oriented forum for leaders from the trade unions, private sector, civil society, the public sector, and academia, that is dedicated to the promotion of social dialogue, national partnership, and consensus building around agreed principles and policies. And whereas ACON has been motivated and guided by the aforesaid national examples, which have been demonstrated the value of social dialogue and of social partnership, including 1. The Constitution of Jamaica 1962, that was drafted by a bipartisan joint committee of the Jamaican legislature. The resultant document was included in the second schedule of the Jamaica Constitution, Order and Council 1962, under the West Indies Act 1962, and came into force with the Jamaica Independence Act 1962 of the UK Parliament, which gave Jamaica political independence. 2. National Housing Trust, established in 1976 through an amendment to the National Insurance Act, was based on multi-stakeholder consultations and bipartisan support. The National Housing Trust Act was passed in 1979. The precursor of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ, was the Electoral Advisory Committee, EAC, formed in 1979. The EAC was the product of broad consensus, which recognized the imperative for electoral reform. In 2006, the ECJ was established as a permanent, independent, and autonomous authority that reports directly to Parliament. 4. In 1998, the Manley Accord among trade unions, bauxite alumina companies, and the government was historic and brought stability to industrial relations in the bauxite industry through social dialogue and cooperation amongst the parties. 5. In 2003, Acorn authored a paper called, quote, a social partnership framework proposal for Jamaica, end of quote, which led to the Partnership for Progress Initiative and the National Social Partnership Consultative Committee between 2003 and 2007. The establishment of the National Partnership Council and the Partnership for Transformation in 2010, followed by 4 agreements: the Partnership Code of Conduct in 2011, the Partnership for Jamaica in 2013, Partnership for Prosperous Jamaica in 2016, and the Partnership for Jamaica Strong and Sustainable Recovery in 2022. 6. The first Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the government and the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions in 2004 that established the Public Sector Monitoring Committee, which has served to maintain industrial harmony by fostering a collaborative rather than an adversarial approach to settling wage and other disputes. 7. The Multi-Sectoral Economic Program Oversight Committee, EPOC, that was established in 2013 to monitor and report to the public on the implementation of the economic reform measures under the Jamaica Agreement with the International Monetary Fund, IMF. 8. The Electricity Sector Enterprise Team, ESET, modeled after EPOC and later absorbed in 2017 into the Generation Procurement Entity, which was established under the Electricity Act of 2015, and what had a profound impact on the facilitation of investment that helped modernize Jamaica's electricity generating infrastructure. And 9, National Consensus on Crime, that was established in 2019, that involved agreement between the government, opposition, civil society and the private sector to support a process to transform Jamaica into a safe, secure and investment-friendly society. The NCC outlines the steps that should be taken to achieve a sustainable reduction in crime, inclusive of milestone and key performance indicators. The Crime Monitoring and Oversight Committee, CMOC, is the body tasked with monitoring the implementation of the consensus and reporting to the public. The rest of the proclamation will be read by my colleague, Senator Gill. I take my seat, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if you just recognize me from a seat that is not my own, but the proclamation continues as follows. And whereas at the national, sectorial and institutional levels, the multi-sector dialogue and social partnership process has repeatedly underpinned Jamaica's advance and averted crisis at different moments. And whereas internationally, social dialogue reduces social divisiveness, promotes justice, and strengthens of democratic governance through greater input, monitoring, oversight, engagement, and communication with the Jamaican citizenry, and the advancement of the Human Development Agenda. And whereas the International Labour Organization, the ILO, the United Nations Development Programme, the UNDP, and the United Nations 2015 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, in particular, a successful development agenda that requires inclusive partnership at the global, regional, national, and local levels, built upon principles and values, and upon a shared vision and shared goals, placing people and the planet at the center. End of quote. And whereas we note with pride that ACON has made a quiet, consistent, and definitively positive contribution to the promotion, acceptance, and utilization of the principles of social dialogue and social partnership, effectively using those principles to bring to the table of discussions government and opposition and other partners in dispute in pursuit of resolutions of avoidable crisis. And whereas ACON is celebrating 25 years of service to the citizens of Jamaica, remains an enduring testimony to the value of social dialogue and of social partnership, has advocated for the recognition of social dialogue and social partnership as essential elements of the national partnership, and has petitioned for a day in recognition of the unquestionable value of social dialogue, social partnership, and national partnership. And therefore, it went on to state that I, Patrick Linton Allen, member of the Order of the Nation, Knight, Grand Cross of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael and St. George, Commander of the Order of Distinction, Knight of Grace of the Most Venerable Order of the Hospital of St. John of Jerusalem, Governor General of Jamaica, do hereby proclaim the 25th day of October annually as National Partnership Day. And urge all citizens to join with ACON in recognition of the value of social dialogue and of social partnership, and coming together in the celebration of the national partnership, which especially at times of challenge and crisis has greatly contributed to the unity and advancement of Jamaica and our people. That's how it's given under his hand as King's House, the 24th day of October in the year of our Lord, 2022. That's the end of the proclamation. May it please you, Mr. President.
I thank both Senator Brown and Senator Gale for bringing this development to our attention, first of all, and secondly, for reading the proclamation into the record of this Honorable Senate. Thank you, Senators Brown and Gale. Members would have heard the question earlier put by the Minister that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Against?